dead turkey.
Hi, I'm Andy Hamilton with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. I'm a training and development specialist, and part of my job is teaching people how to get into hunting and fishing. And so today we're going to be going a little bit on first steps of how to get your shotgun ready for turkey season. First thing we'll kind of go over is what type of shotgun you're going to be looking for to get out in the field with. And to be perfectly honest, it really doesn't matter in terms of the action or the gauge itself. The most common out there for turkey hunting is probably going to be a 12 gauge, and also the most common action type is probably going to be a semi-auto, but that doesn't mean you have to have those. So you can, if I'm going out and purchasing a firearm, this is the first one I'm going after is going to be turkey. I actually am probably going to go get a shotgun that's going to do a little bit of everything, so that way I can use that when it comes to waterfowl or upland later in the year. So for that, I would probably choose a semi-auto. When it comes to gauges, this day and age, 20 gauge versus 12 gauge, it really doesn't matter. There's pros and cons to both. One's going to be a little bit lighter, a little bit less recoil. The other one's going to actually pack a little bit more punch, also pack a little bit more recoil. But in terms of that, it's just whatever you find that you want to use for your specific hunting application, go with that. It can be a break action, it can be a pump action, it can be a semi-auto. All right, so once you have picked out your shotgun, next thing, let's say gearing it towards actually getting out there turkey hunting. So the next thing that I'm going to look at is what type of sight am I going to use to be able to actually aim my shotgun. So a normal shotgun is probably just going to come looking just like this and only have a single bead at the end. But what you can do is you can purchase something like this. These are just a couple Allen screws that will clamp this right on top of that ventilated rib on top of the shotgun, and then you actually have a rear aperture and front sight post. And so it's going to allow you to actually sight in your shotgun a little bit better. But you don't have to have those. You can still go with just having that front bead, but the next part when we get into talking about patterning and sighting in is where it's going to be real important that you do that and follow the proper steps so that you can make an accurate shot in the field. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is chokes. So for turkey hunting, you want to have actually a really tight choke. And so what I mean by chokes, it's going to be the restriction at the end of the barrel. So different shotguns are going to come, especially like modern shotguns. If you purchase it, it'll probably come with a variety of chokes, probably an improved cylinder, a modified, and a full. So for turkey hunting, you want to lean more towards that full side of your turkey choke. And what that does is as your shot goes through the barrel, it's going to restrict it or open up. And basically what it's doing is it's going to change the rate of spread of those pellets coming out of that shotgun. So keeping a little bit tighter pattern or tighter group is going to allow you to reach out there a little bit further and actually hit the turkey and basically take down your target a little bit better. So when it comes to choke specifically for turkey, this would be essentially a stock choke. This is this one's rated for steel, and it is a full choke for this Franke, but at the same time you can go out and buy specific turkey chokes. So a specific turkey choke is actually probably going to be a little bit beyond just full. It's going to be even a little bit tighter than what your full is, but again, this will work just as much as you want to, especially getting out of there that first season, getting everything used to it. You don't have to go out and purchase that other thing. It's just another thing that maybe improves your odds a little bit better. And we'll talk about it a little bit and even demonstrate a little bit more here of how the two different chokes change the rate of spread out there on the targets at different ranges. So within that, now putting all this together and actually applying it to the field and getting into what we call patterning. So I like to think of this a little bit as an equation or some type of formula. So the three parts of your formula is going to be your shotgun, your choke, and your shell. All right, so if you change any part of that formula, obviously the outcome is going to be a little bit different. And we're trying to get the right combination for your specific hunting scenario, or whether really we want the best pattern out there at the particular distance that you're going to be hitting. All right, so now that you've decided on what shotgun, what choke, it's time to decide on which shell is going to work best with that shotgun. And so the way we do that is a process called patterning. And what we're going to demonstrate to you today is really a simplified version of that. So first we're going to have a target set up at 15 yards. This is just a side end target. So it's basically getting our accuracy dialed in before we start reaching out to the different distances. So once we have our accuracy nailed down, whether that's by adjusting our sights or the Kentucky windage with the single bead, we'll put out a turkey target at 20 yards and a turkey target at 40 yards. We're going to take a shot with them with the first shell, go out, put out new targets at 20 and 40, and then shoot at them with the other shell. And so what we're doing is we're trying to find out which one of these two shells patterns the best at those distances that we're going to be hunting at. All right, so Carla just finished patterning all of these shotguns and combination of ammos and chokes. So we'll go over some of the results here. So first we had the Remington with the same choke. So this is an actual turkey choke in the Remington, and we were using the Kent ammunition, and so this is the result. So this was the 20-yard shot, and this was the 40-yard shot. So then for comparison, we used the Franke, same ammunition, same Kent, and the same choke, just actually made for the Franke. So the only difference in this was the shotgun itself, and you can see here the results. The Remington actually likes that ammunition a little bit better. So it basically had a better pattern at both these distances than the Franke did. So now to kind of keep something the same, so same shotgun, the Franke, same turkey choke with and all we did next was change out the ammo. So this was Kent ammo here at 20 yards. This is Winchester ammunition at 20 yards. And you can see the Franke likes the Winchester a little bit better than it does the Kent. And so, but the real tell here is at 40 yards. You can see the pattern at 40 yards versus the pattern at 40 yards here. So again, the Winchester ammunition had a better pattern than the Kent ammunition did. All right, so let's talk about what we need to actually set up if we're going out and patterning our shotguns. So really, all you really need is, it could just be a piece of butcher paper or a piece of cardboard. You can just use a Sharpie and put a black dot in there, just something to aim at. That way you're getting essentially the center, or as close as you can get to the center of your pattern. Another tool that kind of helps out a little bit are these splatter targets. All right, so what these are is anywhere a pellet actually goes into this target, it shows up. It's essentially, you can scratch it off and it has color behind the black, so it's going to show you a little bit better of without having to get a Sharpie and count on cardboard or a piece of paper. It shows you a little bit better like what your pattern's at. The other thing is, well, your shotgun itself, but if you don't have different chokes to switch out, definitely come out with a few different types of ammunition. Again, you're going to take a shot with every different type of ammo at 20 and at 40, so that you can kind of compare all those differences. The biggest tell is going to probably be at that further distance. So like if you have 40 yards, you're going to compare all the 40-yard targets and just have that ammunition be the one part of the formula that you change up. When you're setting up out there in a field or in a range, again, make sure you have a good backstop or just follow the proper safety protocols. But all you really need is 2 stakes, drive them in the ground, put a piece of cardboard up, and we'll walk you through and kind of show you what our setup was like today. All right, so we're just kind of showing you how we had everything set up today. So our first target is out here at 20 yards. We just have 2 posts. You can have them just where you're driving them into the ground with these points, but we have these stands that actually hold up these, what, 1x2s? Yep. You can just use butcher paper or a piece of random piece of cardboard that we have. We even have these stick-on dots. It's the same material as the other targets are made out of. So wherever you hit, it basically will kind of just show you where it is, just giving us a point to actually aim at. And then just some kind of cardboard backing to actually have those targets adhere to. Something with a little bit of rigidity, give it some stiffness so it's not blowing in the wind. So same setup here at 20, we have the same setup out there at 40 as well.
With us and watching that video by Andy Hamilton at ODFW. So to continue the conversation, shotguns, chokes, shot, gauge, all those sorts of things are very interchangeable, and it's a lot of it's personal preference. Some things work better than others. It's all about experimentation, and knowing your equipment before you get out in the field. So I want to open it up now to question and answer time, because there's a lot of things that we can discuss, and there's just a lot of questions I think that folks who are either new to turkey hunting, have never turkey hunted before, or even experienced turkey hunters might have that we would try to touch base on here tonight. So if you have any questions, make sure to type those into the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. And while you're typing questions in between trying to think of something, make sure to enter our Turkey Week raffle. Again, that button at the bottom of your screen, click that, and that'll take you right to the web page. All right, so our first question here, do tighter chokes kick more? Again, I do not claim to be an expert. I have personally never experienced a difference in kick based on the choke itself. And remember, a turkey choke is your most restrictive choke that you shoot. Probably the more important factor that deals with the kick of your shotgun is going to be both the payload, how many ounces or how heavy your shot is, and the gauge of your gun. So a 12 gauge is going to kick far more than a 20 gauge, and then a 20 gauge would kick far more than a 410, for example. All right. Next question. This brings up a good point. I'm looking here at the chat about shooting. Depending on where you live at, you have various areas that you can go pattern your shotgun. Here in Central Oregon, we are fortunate to be surrounded by national forest and BLM land. So if you find yourself a nice isolated spot with a good backdrop, typically when I'm patterning my shotgun, I'll take a shot at 20, 30, and 40 yards. In my experience turkey hunting, I've never shot a turkey over 30 yards away, but I know with the various loads and gauges on the market today that folks are starting to take longer shots on turkeys and being successful at doing so. So like a lot of things, it just comes down to personal preference in terms of what gauge of shotgun you want to use, what type of shot you choose and what kind of load you use, and the distances that you're trying to work a bird into. All right, second question, does it really matter if you use a semi-auto or could you possibly get away with an over and under? For turkey hunting, it does not matter, in my opinion, what type of shotgun you use, whether it's an over and under, a single shot, a semi-auto, or a pump gun. What you will notice, though, is with a semi-auto, more specifically gas-operated semi-auto shotgun, that will absorb and take away some of the kick from the gun. It harnesses those gases and uses it to cycle the new shell in. Over and unders, single shots, because there's not a mechanism in there to absorb that, you're taking the full brunt of the shot. As with anything, it's all about patterning your shotgun and knowing the limitations of that weapon. So over and under would be perfectly viable to shoot a turkey with. I wouldn't hesitate a second if that's what I had. All right, another question. My shotgun does not recommend shooting steel shot with a full choke. I assume TSS and heavy shot would also fall into that category. That is correct. So this actually is a perfect question. This year, I am using my very first shotgun, a 20 gauge, a youth model 870. that I'm actually shooting TSS through, moving down from the 12 gauges that I used to shoot. The gun itself is lighter, and I feel like it's going to be just a more pleasant experience to shoot. Having gone through the research on the TSS, tungsten super shot is more dense than lead, and like steel shot, they do recommend that you only shoot steel and TSS loads through choke tubes specified to shoot those denser materials. What you don't and what you're trying to avoid is if a choke tube is specified for lead only. They're saying that because with steel shot and TSS, the restriction might be too tight at the end of the barrel, and you could end up damaging your barrel or something more extravagant and possibly injuring yourself or somebody that you're hunting with. So TSS heavy shot would fall into the steel shot category, and I would recommend only shooting choke tubes that specify clearly that you can shoot those materials through that choke tube. Next question, does cleaning the shotgun matter when patterning? I think this is like a lot of things in hunting. You're going to get a lot of different answers depending on who you are. For me personally, I only really clean my shotguns once a year, and that's at the end of the year. I'm kind of bad at that, but I have never seen any negative effects of a dirty shotgun when I've been patterning it at the beginning of the year. Next question, is that spendy tungsten super shot worth the price? This is going to be the first year that I'm shooting tungsten super shot turkey hunting. I actually took my 20 gauge out with it and patterned it the other day at 30 yards, and the results were impressive to say the least. The way the pattern worked and the number of pellets that were within a 10-inch circle, it would easily be lethal out to probably 40 or 50 yards. I'm not saying that that's as far as I would shoot, but it would work that far. I know with the tungsten super shot, one of the benefits of that is you can use a smaller size shot. So a lot of the comparisons out there is that a number 9 tungsten super shot, which is extremely small shot, is the equivalent of a lead number 5. And so what you're getting with that is a higher density shot. You're getting more pellets per load because it's able to compact more within the shell itself. And then you're able to shoot smaller caliber shotguns if you want to, because you're getting the benefits of that more expensive shot. So for turkeys, I would say it's going to be worth it. My goal every year is only to take 3 shots. And so at that cost and that number of shots, I think it is worth it. So it's all a personal choice, though. All right, the next question. How much difference does a turkey choke make? I have never turkey hunted without a turkey choke. The primary reason folks use turkey chokes specified for turkey hunting is to get that more constriction on your pattern, because when you're shooting a turkey, ideally you're aiming at the wattle or the middle of the neck, and it's a very small target to be aiming at. And so you want to keep that pattern as tight as possible. And that's where a turkey choke's going to give you that tightest pattern. I've seen plenty of folks shoot full and even modified chokes to take turkeys, but I would definitely recommend a turkey choke if you have the ability to get one. But more importantly, the ability to pattern it with multiple different types of shot shells to find that perfect shell shotgun choke pattern that'll work for you. All right. We're looking here at a few more questions coming up onto the board. Again, want to thank everybody for attending tonight. We apologize for any of the technical difficulties, such as life with our virtual world these days. If folks want to start putting in the chat box as well, you know, kind of what your combos that you've been having good experience with, or if you have questions regarding how you think it'll work, that'll be a good point of conversation. All right. Next question. Is the turkey choke giving you a tighter pattern than an improved modified? The answer to that question is yes. A turkey choke is more or less the tightest patterning choke. So from tightest to least tight, you would go from turkey choke to full to improved modified to modified to improved cylinder to cylinder. And I think there's a few more that are more open than that. But a turkey choke is going to be your tightest patterning choke that you can buy in the market. And it appears that we're still having some technical difficulties, such as life, so we apologize. Here's a great question. What kind of sights or optics do you recommend? Again, for me personally, I prefer and I believe less is better when it comes to turkey hunting. I have always used and preferred either a single beaded shotgun sight, just a traditional bead at the end of the gun, or a low profile fiber optic sight with a front and rear rail. I know a lot of folks use and are very successful with the red dots and scopes, but in my opinion, I do a lot of run and gunning when I'm turkey hunting, and I just feel like those are things that have a tendency to catch brush, hit trees, and break when they drop on the ground. And then you're in a tough spot if that does happen, or they get knocked out of sight. So my personal preference and what I would recommend, either just a single bead or a simple fiber optic sight with just the front rail or front and rear rail. Keep it simple. And the next question, any tips on measuring yardage if you don't have a rangefinder? That's a great question, Emily. I personally, I carry my rangefinder on me when I'm turkey hunting. When I set up, I'll range certain trees so I have an idea of yardage as the bird works its way in. If you don't have a rangefinder, I think it's important to kind of test yourself and test yourself before the season to see how well you are at ranging different trees, boulders, things like that. Turkeys can be kind of tricky to gauge distance. A lot can depend on the topography of the ground you're hunting. Just a little knoll in the ground can make the turkey seem like they're a lot farther away if they're on that back side of it. And so if you don't have a rangefinder, if you're in a setup situation, if you're putting a decoy out, using your decoy and kind of stepping off the yardage from your decoy to where you're sitting is a good way to gauge that distance if you don't have a rangefinder. All right. Are there any restrictions on what optics are allowed on turkey guns? As far as I know, Matthew, there are no restrictions on optics for turkey guns. I guess you would not be able to use a night vision scope, but other than that, you, I believe, are allowed to use scopes, red dots, and beads and fiber optics in the state of Oregon. As far as I know, the only restriction is using using shot that is no larger than number 2, I believe, for turkeys and shotguns. And I see that we are still having some technical difficulties. We will get a cleaner version up on the website. So again, we apologize for that. We appreciate everybody coming on tonight. Again, if you haven't entered our raffle, please do so. All right, let's get to some more questions here. I see some folks talking about simplicity. And I would definitely agree with that when it comes to turkey hunting. All right, our next question from Brian is shoulder strap or nothing. Again, personal choice. I prefer not using a shoulder strap. I actually use a gun bearer system that hooks my shotgun to the strap of my backpack. I really enjoy not having things hanging off my gun because every little bit of movement when you're turkey hunting can make a difference. So I prefer no shoulder strap. All right, next question. Do you use what do I use for a blind? So I'm hunting entirely public land in central and eastern Oregon. So I do not carry a blind with me. I'm just using whatever existing vegetation, topography I have around me to hide myself and in any movements that I may have. Coming from Michigan and hunting back in Michigan, where I did do some private land hunting, I would use just a simple 3-dimensional pop-up blind that I would sit on a field edge and call in those setups. All right, next question. To get ready for upland game hunting, I use skeet trap number 5 stand to practice prior to season. What would you recommend for practicing prior to turkey season? Man, that's a great question, Tony. I personally am one to take a few shots at the range, make sure my gun is patterning correctly, and once I know that the pattern is where I want it at the various ranges that I intend to shoot at, I go and hunt. Unlike upland season, turkeys typically, if everything goes according to plan, should be standing relatively still or not moving at all when you take your shot. One piece of advice is before you go out to the season, I have cut out a little turkey head out of a piece of cardboard and set it out there at different distances. And I think what you'll be surprised to see is a turkey's neck and a head at 30, at 20, even even at 15 yards, is not as big of a target as you think it is. So that's what I would do to get ready is prepare yourself to understand and realize the scale of the target before you get out there in that situation where the turkey's gobbling, your heart's pumping, and your adrenaline's rushing through your veins, and you kind of go tunnel vision, which does happen every once in a while when those things are gobbling in your face. So that's how I would prepare for turkey season. Is a camo gun important? I would say that a camo gun is not necessary if you do not already have a camo gun. I think, as was discussed last night, I am one that believes that movement is far more important than being head to toe in camo. Me personally, I do not wear camo pants, so I've always worn just a solid earth tone color pant with a camo top, and I've never felt like that has allowed a turkey to see me and not get a shot. So I do not believe a camo shotgun is critical to being successful during turkey season. If you have one, that's great. I have 2 turkey shotguns that are camo and 2 shotguns that I turkey hunt that are wood and blued barreled. I've never seen a difference. All right, next question. Where can you buy turkey ammo this week? Well, Tony, if you got a lot of money, I could sell you a shell or 2. But as you're probably well aware, ammo in general is darn near impossible to come by at any time of the year right now. I think if you're trying to buy ammo this week, I would just be going to your local sporting goods store every single day and try to time it to where they get a shipment in. I know this time of year stores are trying to stock up on turkey ammunition since this season is right around the corner. And you might even have some luck looking at some online retailers if they're able to expedite shipping. But really, if you find yourself in a situation next week where you don't have any turkey specific ammunition, you can kill a turkey with any type of ammunition, as long as you're going to get the velocity and the shot size to get the job done at the distances you're willing to shoot. You can shoot turkeys with upland load if they're close enough. So if you got it, range is important depending on the load that you're shooting. All right, next question. Any turkey specific gutting field dressing advice? So not to get ahead of night number 5 of Turkey Week, which our board co-chair Tristan Henry will be hosting on Friday night. He'll be talking about in the field gutting, field dressing, and cooking. So I will just give a very broad general advice on gutting, field dressing turkeys from my experience. I feel it's important to get the guts out on any bird, but especially a turkey, as quickly as possible, and get that bird cooling down as soon as possible. That would be first and foremost, and is always number one on my mind when I shoot a bird, especially because in the springtime, temperatures are typically getting warmer, and birds are just naturally, they run hot. So when you open up a turkey, you'd be surprised at how warm it is inside that bird, and you realize how important it is to get that thing cooling down as quickly as humanly possible. All right, keep the questions coming, everybody. I see people are talking about ammunition. Yeah, the ammunition conundrum, I'll call it, is something else right now. I know I ordered my new turkey shells online 3 months ago. That way I knew that I would have plenty of time to test it out and not be scrambling next week. So if you are in the need for shells, it never hurts to ask a friend or reach out if it's something that you're getting down to the wire on and still don't have anything to shoot for the season. Okay, we got about 15 minutes left on tonight's night number 2 of Oregon BHA Turkey Week. Let's keep those questions coming in. All right, here's our next question. When patterning, how many pellets should be on the turkey head? That's a great question, Brian. For me personally, what I'm looking for is not necessarily the number of pellets that have struck the turkey's head when I'm patterning. I'm looking for consistency in that pattern. So what you would typically like to see is at whatever range you're shooting at, draw a 10-inch circle around the turkey's neck and the head. And what you want to see is a clear, constant pattern of shot within that 10-inch circle. What you want to avoid is a bunch of large gaps or holes, because that means that those are spots where you may end up missing the turkey completely. A lot depends also on the gauge of shotgun, the size of the shell, the number of pellets, and the type of shot that you're using. So some of these TSS loads that are using a much smaller shot, anywhere from a number 7 to a number 10 shot, you're getting a lot more pellets in each of those loads, and so you're getting a much higher density pattern. In your more traditional turkey loads, which is predominantly number 5 lead shot, you're still looking for that pattern, but you're going to have larger gaps just because the number of pellets is less in that load. So I would look for density, and then if you know that pattern is dense at the distance you're shooting, then it should kill that turkey. If the shooter does his or her job right, you'll be eating turkey schnitzel for dinner that night. And again, everything that I've been speaking to here on tonight is just from my personal experience hunting turkeys growing up in Michigan and then moving out here to Oregon. I do not claim or aspire to be a turkey expert, but I am a turkey nut. And if you ask anybody that knows me, turkey hunting is my absolute most favorite time of the year. So I get pretty excited about these conversations, and I appreciate everybody again being on here tonight, being on here for the week. Our chapter really enjoys putting on these virtual events for all of you to be able to enjoy, ask questions, and learn. We all know the last year has been extremely difficult, and so I hope everybody's getting excited for turkey season to start here in Oregon on April 15th. If you're not in Oregon and you're in some of the other states, I know some of you are already beginning to chase turkeys, and so I hope you're finding success. All right, here's another question. Is it true that Chris Hager is the Oregon chapter's turkey czar? That is correct. So the Oregon chapter board a couple years ago started a fun little competition that we nominate, or we award the Turkey Czar trophy to the member of our board who ends up having the most successful turkey season or the most epic turkey season. And actually, what we will do is get a picture of the Turkey Czar award that currently resides in Regional Director Chris Hager's bedroom, right above his bed, I believe. Right. So it's looking down on him every single night. We'll get that picture up on Instagram so everybody can see that award that we hand out to the Turkey Czar every single year. All right. And if, again, reminder, click on that raffle button. 88 cents of every dollar that we are able to raise this week goes to boots on the ground efforts. Some of those efforts this week include your Oregon chapter board commenting and being engaged on some pieces of legislation in the Oregon House and Senate. You can check those letters submitted on behalf of our Oregon chapter members at the Oregon chapter website and our blog post. So we would encourage you all to check out those. We also have an action alert for House Bill 3187, where we feel that it's important that hunters, anglers, celebrate the North American model of conservation and how funding our wildlife conservation happens in this state. Okay, we're just under about 8 minutes to go. I know there's still a couple questions hanging out there. So let's see those questions before we call it a night. Again, want to thank everybody here. I hope you all are getting prepared and ready for turkey season. It's right around the corner. The weather's getting nice. The ticks are out. Best time of the year. I know there's some questions out there. Come on, folks. Let's end on a high note. Let's get 2 or 3 more questions up there and call it a night. All right, Tony, thank you. How about your most memorable hunt? Oh, wow. So I've had a lot of memorable hunts, turkey hunting. I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of turkey hunting with my dad. We've shot doubles 3 times in our life. Last year is a very memorable story, though. I called in two toms to our turkeys. My dad and I were sitting shoulder to shoulder, and mind you, we've shot doubles 3 times in our life, so you think we would have it figured out by now. He thought it was 1, 2, 3 shoot. I said it was shoot on 3, so 1, 2, boom. And when those turkeys came in, I started the countdown. I shot on 3. He waited, didn't shoot, and his turkey ended up circling around, popped up at 15 yards. And while my dad and I were bickering about how I decided to shoot early in his mind, the turkey looked at him dead on at 15 yards. I saw the turkey, told my dad that it's looking at him. He turned his head and the turkey took off. So that is by far one of the more memorable hunts that I've had turkey hunting. And it's something that I'm going to be able to remind my dad about for the rest of our lives. So that would be my most memorable hunt. Happened last year on May 1st, actually. How early before first light do you like to arrive to your spot? That is a great question. I am historically an early riser, and I like to get out into the woods approximately 45 minutes to a half hour before you can see your hand in front of your face. And typically that is when I do not have a turkey roosted from the night before, because as the woods come alive in the morning, I want it to be out there in the middle of it and hear turkeys gobble from the roost. So a half hour to 45 minutes before you can see the hand in front of your face. That's not very scientific, but that's usually what I shoot for. All right, next question. Do you use a bipod or other gun holder? I do not use a bipod on my shotgun when I'm turkey hunting. Kind of like the sling question, I kind of feel like using the bipod or gun holder just adds an additional dimension of gear that could cause added movement and thus making you more visible to the gobbler as they're working their way in. So I will typically set up and use my knee as my gun holder, or if the occasion calls for it and it has on a couple times, I'll just shoot offhand at the turkey, and that seems to have worked fairly well for me so far. So someone could use a bipod or a gun holder if it's more comfortable. That's entirely possible. Like I said, I just try to avoid as many things that are going to cause additional movement when it's not necessary. Okay, we got 4 minutes left. So let's finish off with one more question, and we'll call it a night, and hopefully see all of you back here tomorrow night for Turkey Week presented by Oregon BHA week or night number 3, excuse me. Wait for one more question to come through, hopefully. And again, while we're waiting, I'm going to say it again, sound like a broken record. Click that button at the bottom of your screen there. Enter that raffle, some really cool items that you can win, and more importantly, you're helping support your Oregon chapter of BHA. All right, last question from Meredith. Thank you, Meredith. How do you change strategy when you have roosted birds versus not roosted birds? So I think there's a slight distinction here to make. My strategy is for a roosted bird, I'll try to get within 100 yards of that bird if I know exactly where or what tree they're roosted in. At that point, you got about 360 degrees to decide which way they're going to fly down. Topography might dictate a more likely escape route than not. So if you're able to get downhill from the roost tree, then that's what I would suggest. If you do not find roosted birds in the morning, I'm straight run and gun style. I will cover anywhere from 5 to 10 miles or more in a day, covering as much ground as possible. And the second I hear a bird gobble, I'm going right at them. A lot of folks will just set up right where they're sitting if they hear a bird and never end up seeing that bird. I tend to be a little more on the aggressive side for turkey hunting, that if you hear a bird gobble, whether they're in the roost or already on the ground, I'm trying to cut that distance and trying to get inside their bubble easily within 100 yards, ideally within 50 or 60 if you can do it without being seen. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid to bust a bird once or twice, because I feel like the benefits far outweigh the cost if you are more aggressive than not aggressive enough. Again, that's from personal experience, but like to run and gun. All right, everybody. Well, that concludes night number 2 of Oregon BHA Turkey Week. We sincerely appreciate you all attending tonight.